So, have any of you ever thought to yourself, I would love to have a garden, but I'm renting right now and I don't know where I'm going to be next year, and it's just, I'll wait until I have a home of my own, I'll have this big backyard and I'll grow my perfect garden there, and I'll just wait until then. Well, that's a common belief that I hear shared among many people, and I personally don't think that being a renter, which I'm sure for those of you watching, a lot of you are, that should stand in your way of growing things if that's something that you are looking to do. So in today's video, I thought I would discuss with you things that you can grow if you're a renter, because you definitely have some options. Welcome to True Freedom Permaculture, where I show you all the tips and tricks you need to have a green thumb, even if you weren't born with one. Now, if you're renting, the first thing I would do is go to the owner or the property manager, whoever you're used to communicating with, and ask them, can I put in a garden? The worst thing they can say is no. And you can ask them anything from, like, if you could have 1 or 2 garden beds, and then there's also some other options too. So you have to keep in mind that the owner's best interest is in keeping the area attractive, appealing to most people, neat, tidy. So if you do create a garden space, you want to make sure that it fits in with their vision. But at the same time, if you're a good tenant, then your landlord wants to keep you happy. So, and who knows? I mean, you could eventually maybe work out some arrangement where you grow produce for them and you get like a discount off your rent. I mean, you never know where this could lead. But there are some options when it comes to kind of working that out. You just want to make sure that you can create a win-win situation. And that will give you the best odds of being able to have a space of your own to grow something. Let's say garden beds are off the table. The owners either said no, or it's just not a possibility, something you want to do. There are an array of ornamental plants that are also edible. So in my area here, we have these beautiful kind of peachy daylilies that come up, and all parts of the daylily are edible, and it happens to be really delicious. So it's something that will add to the landscaping and the visual appeal of the property if done right. So that's something that you can add value in that way, but then also you're able to grow your own food too. So creative solutions like this can also be brought up. The other thing you can do is container gardening, which I'm a big fan of, because you just need like a back deck or a front deck, whichever gets the most sun most likely. But you can grow potatoes, you can grow tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, kale, and a lot of things. I haven't even covered it all, but that is a great solution. And what I really like about it for renting is, let's say you move in the middle of a growing season. It would be a shame to leave all of your stuff that's in like a raised bed, or have to, return it to its original state when you move out and you don't even have a chance to enjoy the produce. But with container gardening, it's entirely portable. So if you move, you just take it with you. Now, I will say that if you have containers outside, depending on where you live, here it's the deer, which I would be careful about. You might have to come up with a creative way to protect what's growing in your containers from pests. So for me, for a lot of plants, I would use like a tomato cage or stake it and wrap some like deer netting around it, and maybe even above it as well to have it protected. The other thing you can do is have an herb garden, which I think is one of the most valuable things you can have, whether you're a renter or not. But let's say that you only have room for a couple small containers. Having an herb garden is amazing because you can just let it grow. You get to see the beauty of it every day, and you can go out and just clip whatever you need as you need it. It used to be really frustrating for me to go to the store and I would find these like little packets of herbs in these plastic bags or containers. And they weren't like, so expensive, but they weren't terribly cheap either. And I found it annoying because every time I would need herbs, I'd have to go buy this. And sometimes I wouldn't use all of it, but then it doesn't stay good long enough that I could, wait until the next time I needed it. So I do think growing an herb garden is amazingly rewarding. Also, let's say you live in an urban space and you don't have like a sunny fire escape, or it gets a lot of pollution, you don't want to grow anything outside. If you have a sunny windowsill, you can grow them inside. Same thing with microgreens, which is another thing that can kind of add up at the grocery store, but it's something you can just snip off and add to whatever salads, eggs, whatever you want. I think microgreens and herbs are a terrific way to go to. Something else you can grow if you're renting, again, you might want to have a conversation with the owner or the property manager about this too, but mushrooms. Mushrooms, you don't need to like dig in the ground, you just need some logs, and it would have to allow for a pile of logs with a tarp over them or underneath some trees. But if you don't have a lot of sunlight, this is a great idea because mushrooms actually don't like being in the sun. If you notice when they're growing their natural habitat in the forest, they're growing under the shade of trees. So they might get partial sun, but they're not getting full sun. And this again is something that you could potentially bring with you if you moved in the middle of the growing season. All you do is you just inoculate the mushroom logs with spores and plug them up, usually with like melted wax. And you would have this pile of logs and hopefully you would get your mushroom yield. And depending on the type of the mushroom and the log, you might only have to do it once and it would regenerate for multiple seasons. So that's another creative way that you could grow something in a space that you don't technically own. It can take a while to save up for a down payment on a home. So whether or not you like renting long term or if you're planning on saving up, those are a lot of years that you can grow things if that's something that you want to do. And once you have an idea like, okay, I can do that, you can start coming up with, okay, what will I use the most? You know, what will save me the most money? Things like that. And you can start with maybe just one or two things and go from there. You don't have to do it all at once in one season. And once you have an idea of what you'd like to grow, it doesn't take a lot of fancy equipment to get started. In fact, I start a lot of my seeds in recycled containers, plastic containers for the most part, that I collect throughout the year. So I actually made a video on how to do that. So if that's something that you would like to watch, feel free to click on the video coming up here and I will meet you over there. I'll see you all again soon.